Did you know Nero was only 16 when he became emperor, and Rome expected him to rule like a god? Rome feared him. History condemned him. But who was Nero, really? A tyrant to some, a scapegoat to others. Before Rome burned, an emperor's name was already set on fire. Before we continue, consider subscribing. Your support helps us preserve history's greatest stories. He was born into a world where poison moved faster than justice. Rome's palaces glittered with gold, but their shadows were filled with whispers sharp enough to kill. Assassination was a language. Paranoia was a survival skill. And from the moment Nero opened his eyes, the empire expected him to be either a tool or a threat. His bloodline alone made him dangerous. He was the great-grandson of Germanicus, Rome's fallen hero, and heir to a dynasty drenched in both glory and murder. His mother, Agrippina, carried ambition like a blade, cold, polished, and always ready. She had survived exile, conspiracies, and the cruelty of emperors who feared her family. Now she poured all her hunger for power into her young son. And yet, Nero was nothing like her. He was shy, soft-spoken, and strangely gentle for a child raised in Rome's political hell. He preferred music to military drills, poetry to strategy, and dreams to daggers. Tutors said he smiled often, listened carefully, and avoided conflict whenever he could. In another world, he might have become an artist. In Rome, he could only become a ruler. The Senate held its breath. When Emperor Claudius adopted him, everything changed. Agrippina maneuvered, threatened, and charmed until she placed Nero at the front of the imperial line. The palace became a battlefield fought with dinners, marriages, and subtle poison. Britannicus, Claudius's true son, became an obstacle. Ministers and guards shifted loyalties like sand. And in the center of it all stood a teenage boy who never wanted a throne. But the throne wanted him. Claudius died suddenly, too suddenly, and Rome witnessed the rise of its youngest emperor. Nero was 16 when he took the purple, barely old enough to rule his own household, let alone the world's largest empire. The crowds shouted his name in the forum. Senators bowed deeply. Poets wrote that a new golden age had begun. And for a while, they were right. In his first years, Nero surprised everyone. He lowered taxes for the poor, opened theaters, funded athletic competitions, and granted unexpected mercy in court cases. Foreign ambassadors praised his diplomacy. The common people adored him. Even aging senators admitted, cautiously, that the boy emperor seemed kinder than the men who came before him. Rome whispered his name, not in fear, but in hope. He traveled the streets at night disguised as a citizen, listening to the concerns of merchants and fishermen. He cherished music, studied philosophy, and surrounded himself with poets instead of generals. These were Rome's golden years, a time when it seemed that the empire had found a ruler who mixed power with compassion. But power in Rome never stayed pure for long. And still, the palace watched. Agrippina tightened her grip, determined to rule through her son. Advisors competed for influence. Senators grew uneasy at the growing power of the imperial household. And Britannicus, the rightful heir by blood, turned 16, old enough to challenge Nero's fragile position. Pressure mounted around the boy emperor like a tightening fist. The empire held its breath. Britannicus' death came during a banquet, sudden and violent, his body collapsing in front of nobles and musicians. Poison, many whispered. Nero denied it. Agrippina denied it. The truth drowned under politics and fear. But whether or not Nero ordered it, the shadow of that moment clung to him for the rest of his life. After that night, Rome began to look at Nero differently. His relationship with Agrippina fractured. Power, once shared, turned into tension sharp enough to draw blood. She criticized his advisors, mocked his interests, and tried to control his every decision. He resented her dominance, feared her influence, and became trapped between loyalty to his mother and loyalty to the throne. And Rome whispered its doubts. Was Nero becoming paranoid, or simply defending himself in a city built on betrayal? Was he turning into a tyrant, or finally learning how to survive one? The senators watched him. The Praetorian Guard judged him. The people wondered how long their young emperor would stay the gentle boy they cheered for. And the truth burned quieter than the flames. Because the boy who wanted to sing would soon become the man blamed for fire. The palace grew colder as Nero's world began to fracture. Friends became informants. Advisors became enemies. And the emperor who once tried to rule with mercy found himself cornered by rumors sharp enough to carve his name into infamy. Each decision he made fed the Senate's suspicion, and each breath he took seemed to deepen the cracks forming beneath Rome's foundations. When the Great Fire began, it swallowed the city faster than fear could spread. Flames leapt through wooden streets, roaring across markets, temples, and homes. Screams filled the night as families ran through smoke so thick it felt like drowning. Warehouses exploded. Roofs collapsed. Wind carried embers like arrows into districts miles away. And Rome, ancient, proud, unbreakable, burned as if the gods themselves had turned against it. And Rome whispered his name. Nero rushed back to the city the moment he heard. He opened his palace gardens for refugees, coordinated food distribution, and personally oversaw bucket lines as the fires shifted with the wind. He ordered warehouses opened to supply victims. He arranged temporary shelters. And when the flames finally died, he planned a reconstruction that would make the city wider, safer, and stronger than before. But in the ruins, suspicion rose like smoke. Some whispered that Nero played music as the city burned. Others swore he caused the fire to clear land for a new palace. And some believed the disaster was divine punishment, with Nero as the chosen culprit. The Senate, humiliated and powerless, fed the rumors. Historians who hated him wrote the story they wanted the world to remember. Truth burned slower than the flames. To divert public rage, Nero targeted a small, misunderstood religious group, the Christians. They were foreign, secretive, already distrusted. Accusing them quieted the crowds, but history would never forgive him for it. Whether he acted out of fear, political survival, or cruelty became yet another question buried beneath centuries of bias. The line between truth and legend blurred. As Rome rebuilt, Nero retreated deeper into the world he loved most, the stage. Music, theater, chariot races, Greek competitions. He embraced them all with an obsession that shocked Rome's elite. He wanted applause, not armies. Art, not conquest. To the common people, he became entertaining. To the Senate, he became humiliating. An emperor who performed publicly was, to them, a disgrace. And still, he sought their approval. But the empire was shifting beneath his feet. Senators plotted in secret. Generals in distant provinces whispered rebellion. The Praetorian Guard, once his shield, now weighed his life against their own ambitions. The death of his mother, Agrippina, left a wound history never allowed to heal. Some claimed he murdered her. Others said he acted before she could overthrow him. Evidence twisted, rewritten, weaponized by those who outlived him. And Rome held its breath. Poppaea, the woman he loved most, died under circumstances historians still dispute. Whether it was an accident of rage or a tragedy reshaped by propaganda, no one can say with certainty. Seneca, his old tutor, was forced to die, but only after being accused of conspiracies that might never have existed. With each loss, Nero sank deeper into isolation, surrounded by flatterers and spies. The cracks became fractures. Rebellions erupted across the empire. Gaul rose. Spain rose. Even the armies of the East began to drift from his command. One by one, the legions abandoned him. One by one, his allies disappeared. And when the Praetorian Guard, his final line of defense, declared their loyalty to someone else, the emperor who once ruled the world found himself alone. Alone and hunted, he fled the city disguised, slipping through the darkness with only a handful of servants. As he heard soldiers searching for him, he realized the empire he once tried to shape had already chosen his legacy. History had written him a monster long before he had a chance to explain himself. In his final moment, trembling and terrified, he spoke the line that would echo across centuries. "What an artist dies in me." The echo lingered in the empty room. After his death, Rome erupted in relief. His enemies rewrote everything. Historians shaped him into the perfect villain, depraved, destructive, mad. Every rumor became a fact. Every accusation became truth. And every trace of the gentle boy he once was disappeared beneath layers of political triumph. But empires fall. Stories twist. And the question remains, was Nero really evil? Or was he simply the easiest man to blame when Rome needed a monster? Some emperors conquer nations. Others conquer legends. Nero was conquered by one. Somewhere between fire and shadow, the truth still waits. I know you learned something new from this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also do well to check out other videos from the channel. Thank you.